All right, everyone. Welcome to Museum of Glass. Part of what we do here in the Hot Shop is we have a visiting artist series. And every time we have one, either myself or one of my coworkers introduces the visiting artist. My name is Jabari Owens-Bailey. I am the Curatorial Education Program Manager here at Museum of Glass. And today, I'm here introducing Miss Tariqa Waters. In her residency plan, she wrote, "In anticipation of my upcoming solo exhibition at the Seattle Art Museum, Venus is Missing, I explore vulnerability in the absence of security. This fragility links glass to notions of delicacy and broader themes of emotional vulnerability." One of Seattle Magazine's most influential artists, born in Richmond, Virginia, Tariqa Waters' innovative practice masterfully commands space through her use of mixed media tableaus, paintings, photographs, film, glass, and whimsical immersive installations. Her technicolor characterizations of multigenerational commercial references reclaim a sincere aesthetic steeped in effortless regality and proudly celebrated traditions. Over the years, the art of storytelling has served as a wondrous and resourceful tool within the evolution of her work. When she sits and thinks about her journey as a Black woman and mother in an equitable art market, she often finds herself developing innovative ways to lampoon and defy generalizations that doubt her capabilities. Whether sustaining a decades-long, renowned conceptual brick and mortar community-based art installation called Martyr Sauce, or shape-shifting that brick and mortar into a television show called Thank You, Miss Pam on the Seattle channel, celebrating artists, creatives, and small businesses around the Pacific Northwest, or evolving her preferred medium from oil painting to motorized, large-scale immersive fabrications and blown glass, she has never shied away from taking risks. Her world drips with colorful irreverence and cheeky humor, flipping gender scripts, remixing Black cultural touchpoints, and reflecting the contradictions of daily life. So, I want you all to stay in your seats and welcome Miss Tariqa Waters.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay. This is going to be very informal. I'm so happy to be here. This is a dream. If you ever get the opportunity, I encourage you to apply because I am a spoiled brat. They are sick of me here at the Museum of Glass. This is very exciting for me. A lot of my work is installation-based, surrounding large sculpture pieces that I fabricate. These fabrications are usually just done by myself, and if my husband has the bandwidth to help out, it's fantastic. But as I've been progressing in my career, I've been asking for more help. So in doing so, it's really great because I can then explore new mediums and different materials in a way oh, hello. Can you hear me better now? Oh. You. Okay, sorry. I'm not used to holding a microphone. So yeah, if I can explore new mediums and materials, then it just keeps making the storytelling that much more better. So a little bit of background so I can stay on track and not ramble too much. It was touched on, I moved to Seattle back in 2012 and hit the ground running right away. In Pioneer Square, opened up a small little art gallery called Martyr Sauce. Martyr Sauce came by way of my daughter, who has been here filming, teasing her brother, who you'll see in a film, for saying tartar sauce all the time when he was frustrated. And this is while we were still in Atlanta before we moved to Seattle. So we were initially like, why would you say Martyr Sauce? Who's been talking to you? You're 7 years old. What's happening? And then it quickly went into, this is a cool band name. Cut to, moved to Seattle, opened up this brick and mortar, and we weren't doing anything with Martyr Sauce, so we named it Martyr Sauce. So that was a mainstay in Seattle. So I had the foolish notion that I would be able to, open up this space that is surrounded by other commercial galleries and show other artists, as well as making my own work at the same time. That was a lot. So I slowly started to take contracts in various museums around Seattle and organizations so I can get the artists that I was representing out in the world, and then that would get me a bit more time to kind of focus more on my career at the same time. Mama brain, you just multitask. How many things can I squeeze into 1 hour? So it just kept evolving. So Martyr Sauce went from a little small stairway and it expanded into an underground space right off of First Avenue. And it just started looking like Pee Wee's Playhouse with all the installations that I would make, and they would travel here and there, but they would land back in the space. And then opening up a sister space, which affectionately we call Martyr Sauce Pop Art Museum, with amalgamation of everything that I created, where that acronym came together perfectly as Miss Pam. So that stayed in the community for about 10 years, and then the Miss Pam, I'm just saying all of this, stay with me, because you're gonna hear a lot about Miss Pam. Miss Pam has been moving and grooving. So we went from a brick and mortar to a television show, thank you, Miss Pam, to an advice column for a magazine in Seattle called Public Display Art, Ask Miss Pam. So people either know me as Tariqa Waters or Miss Pam. That was a long walk, but we got there. Thank you. That's not the whole talk. I'm almost done. So moving into the installation space with the glass, I have been working with these ball barrettes. They came about during the pandemic, like right before the pandemic, like 2019. I started making these ball barrettes. I hated the ball barrette growing up. They were a mainstay. They weren't cute to me. They were not fashionable to me. It had nothing to do with beauty and all of the other words that get thrown into artist talks. It was very utilitarian. It was a tool that you pulled out of your toolbox of baubles to get that ponytail right and tight. And everybody who I talk to here in Seattle, it's funny, they have a relationship with those things one way or the other. They are second to stepping on a Lego, so they would end up on the floor and all over the place. But in talking about my upbringing and coming from Richmond, Virginia, East Coast, Southern girl, it's a way for me to tell a lot and to put you in a space and time without having to talk and tell you too much of my personal business. So that's the beauty of pop art. I don't only have to use one or two things, and for me, I can go wherever you want to go, and then you can go wherever you want to go, and we're just sitting having a beer going places, So that's been the funnest thing with working with objects in particular. And the ball barrette is a very inexpensive thing. So, of course, I needed to elevate it and take it to glass to kind of explain more about the toughness that comes up when you're a little girl, a little black girl in particular, growing up in the South, and the things that are coming at you left and right. You just want to play, you just want to exist, you don't want to think about all the things. But there is this tough exterior, but you're super fragile and vulnerable. And I know for me, and talking about the space that I occupy and the people who look like me and who talk like me and who exist like me, we're all saying the same thing without having to say anything at all. Yeah, the ball barrette, it's just I can go on, but I want to. And these slides are new, so I'm talking about the ball barrette because they're in my face. I don't know, this is going to be a surprise for me as we click along here. This is the interior shot of my exhibition at the Museum of Museums when they were open in Seattle, called Gum Baby. And Gum Baby is a 5-room installation that I created. So the space at Museum of Museums is just an empty floor. There's nothing there. So I created 5 separate rooms to tell a story. It kind of ended up being a bit of my story of my life. So this is the first room. And left and right cursor. Is this clicker too? Does that work? No? Just this? Okay. So this is, ooh, okay. Sorry, stay with me. Yeah, okay. First room, and you'll see I'm playing with the ball barrettes. I have them suspended in the air. You can see I've thrown some on the floor because I like to throw glass on the floor. Sorry. And what we were doing earlier today, if you were here to see, which is super fun, making the elastic tie out of glass. These were done, that middle unit is done out of PVC tubing. Not really knowing how I was gonna hang them. So you can see in the clear here, that tube cut off. But it's been a trip trying to figure out how to feed that thing through the ball barrettes to get it in that good shape where the integrity is held there. So this still with my skates. This was a part of well, I'm wondering if there's a video that plays the Gun Baby video. Yeah, where's that video? I had a video of this which would translate this a lot better. Yeah. Oh. There we go. Yeah, this is easy. The first room, this is a gag room. It's a white box gallery. You're on a journey. That's my daughter. So there's a trick door here. That's my son, who stood in for another actor. And he also did all of the animations for this exhibition. His name is Nine. Yes. So that's so much better with the video. Jeez. Yeah. I'm terrible talking about my work. I need a visual. I'm a very visual person, and putting that together was the best idea I could come up with. I'm patting myself on the back just to kind of encapsulate it in a movie trailer and just kind of have some fun with the storytelling element of it all. So there's another video that we could play, and I could talk over top of that, of the behind the scenes of enlisting Brandon Cullingham to help me with these glass ball barrettes because I didn't know I could have help making work. For some reason, I just assumed when I would think about a Warhol or a Jeff Koons that they were doing it themselves. So when I started in fabrications, I was like, okay, I have to, if I want to make the thing and I want it to look like the thing, I'm going to have to figure out what the thing is. Side note, that's a good thing to do because if you are into fabrications, it's always great if you know how to do it yourself. It's like, taking your car into the shop. Learn how to change your tires and learn how to do, basic stuff so they're not trying to take you in the garage. Like, what you really need is like, no, I just came here for the thing, do the thing, and then we can go home. So it's a lot like that with construction and building things. So there's a shorthand for me now where I can just easily communicate one thing or another. Oh, it's in here? Great. That's it. Yeah, I think is that a video? Or is that a still? That's a still. There it is. Is that a still or is that a video? Okay, there. Oh, that's making of the ball barrette. So maybe that's the glass too. So that's good. That's a little, yep. All right, yay. So all I have to say, Brandon was really cool with me because it was great to watch, but it was also really nice to be able to participate a little bit where I felt like I was doing something. It's like I need my breath and a ball. That sounds terrible, but I need to at least do something, participate. So it was really fun. I can only work with glass on occasion. I mean, hats off, mad respect. So this was super fun to produce. This was in August, so excuse my shorts. I had no idea what to wear. And this is building out the space. Every element of the space I did with the help of one other person. But yeah, and you saw the video. Let's see. Yeah. All right. This is our crosswalk in Pioneer Square. Long story short, the city reached out to us about producing a crosswalk, and so I was like, yeah, we have a crosswalk. It's the first of its kind ever in Pioneer Square because it's a historic neighborhood. It is called Martyr Sauce Crosswalk. It is now worn into the street, so it's not as vibrant, but this is a little bit of the behind the scenes of, yay, it's blown out a bit, but that's okay. Yeah, I think the format is different. Of me making the giant lunchbox, Julia. It's a lunchbox and thermos during the height of the pandemic, right before that 2020 election, trying to get everything at the Bellevue Art Museum. And then also at the same time creating Miss Pam for that piece to then move into my own museum, Miss Pam. So that's it in there and a little bit of it in BAM. So making that lunchbox, everything is rooted in the 80s. Even though this lunchbox and thermos is it's an homage to, a tribute to my mother, but it's based off of the television show Julia that aired in the 60s, in 1968, starring the late, great Diane Carroll. And I grew up watching her on Dynasty, A Different World. I mean, she's like mother. I mean, you can't get any better from me. I love her to death. And it was funny to me that this show wasn't on syndication when I was a kid. And with everything that was going on in the world at that time, and still is in 2020, I just wanted to do something that was a little more light and it spoke to a lot of different things all at once. My mom, when we were living in Richmond, she was a single mom and raising my sister and I on her own. I don't know how she did it, and thinking about all the single mothers out there, you know, with young kids during the pandemic. Julia in the television show, she was a registered nurse, so, you know, a tribute to all the essential workers during that time. And I wanted it to rotate because my mom, because she was a single mom, we did not stay home from school unless we had the bubonic plague. So I thought that was kind of the time. And I really wanted to encapsulate that. So she was always tired, so you could see, like, that was my mom laying on the couch, like, I'm resting my eyes, I'm not asleep. Find something to occupy yourself. So trying to, paint little tableaus on the lunchbox that shows us keeping ourselves busy. But when we stayed home, the only thing that was on television was The Price is Right. And so I do a lot of things that are rooted in a time where there are only a few channels. Like even in that Gum Baby video, it's getting to that big giant, floor television set that sits on the carpet. You're looking up, it feels massive. And having the lunchbox rotate like you're on in a new car, come on down, have that vibe to it. Especially creating like a fourth wall because we couldn't enter and exit out of spaces. So it was just something to kind of give a feel like it was unapproachable, but it's just massive. And that lunchbox was primarily made out of wood. The only places that were open during that time were banner and billboard companies. So that was how I was able to fill up that much space. It's about 9 feet high and about 8, what is that, 5 feet high? About 5 or 6 feet high and 7 to 8 feet wide. It's a chore. It's a chore for sure, trying to create all of these images and these different things. But what we're doing today for the upcoming show in the Seattle Art Museum is called Venus is Missing. It opens May 7th. I don't even know when it opens. It opens May 7th. And what's exciting, what we're doing is creating a windshield for the rocket ship. So a little, you might have seen it flashing throughout today. These are interior shots of Miss Pam. So this is the rocket ship not fitting into my art studio. So this is how we have to come up with plan B and get it into the studio space. But this is the side view of the rocket ship, not bringing the rocket ship in here, trying to figure out a way to create like a more organic kind of vibe and playing with the shape of the baubles. Everything is brought to you by the shape, the circle. Everything is rounded. And the best way I could think to create a windshield was thinking about when you blow bubbles off of a bubble wand and how all of them just connect and make one large blob, essentially, but cutting that in half. So we've been able to create with like the metal cage going around. When the glass is blown, it catches inside of the metal cages and then creates this shape, which is super cool. And then it's cut just shallow enough to give the impression that from the center point here, it's kind of, just getting smaller in size as it goes down around the edges. So then from that angle, it'll just have that movement to it. I'm really excited. I don't like to give too much stuff away, but it is an installation, another installation exhibition that'll be up at SAM. It'll be up until January 7th of 2026. So it's a good run if you are able to catch it. But it's a journey. It's really fun. I don't like to give too much away, so I'm terrible about talking about things. But if there are any questions in this rambling artist talk of mine, let me know. And if not, it was so fun, just chit-chatting, just all over the place. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so thinking about family and passing on legacy and just the art of traditions, like, the multi-generational concept is something that I've been working with a lot. Using a lot of my upbringing, my grandmothers, my mother, all of the matriarchs and their various, spaces and places as my muses, and the stories that I would hear, how things just kind of worked around us. I was fortunate enough to be born into a family of artists. My mother's a creative. She went the corporate route, of course, to make sure she could provide. So she was in graphic art and design. Her brothers, my uncle Daniel, my uncle Lorenzo Gibson, I'm shouting out their names, danced in the Richmond Ballet. He's also, an established landscape artist growing up. So I was surrounded by art. Daniel Minter, it's another legacy artist. He's been all over, and actually my first job ever was here in Seattle when he taught at Pratt during the summer program where I was 13, living in Maryland at the time, and he and my aunt flew me out so that I could paint the trash cans to match the bus shelters all over Seattle. So this was in '93. So my first job ever, I like to tell people, was in art. So I never approached art in a very serious, controlled, technical environment. It was just always around me, so I just didn't think it was that. It was always very serious. My people take everything very seriously, of course, but it was just always approachable, and it just came to me really naturally, so I didn't have to fight it at all. Which has been really great, because as an artist, the way you make a living, the way you make things work is you have to multitask, you have to figure out ways to keep it going, and that's how my husband and I raise our kids. He's a musician. He's only been a musician his entire life since he was 12. We don't know how to tell them to work straight, It's like, there is no way. Just like, I don't know, apply, put it in a resume. But as artists, they're both creative, so it just kind of worked out to our benefit in that way. And when you're a Black artist in particular in the arts, as a contemporary artist, and you start getting into these more quote unquote serious spaces, it's your narrative and the way you tell your story becomes really contained, and so you hear a lot of these words that kind of reduce the experience, and it's hyper nuanced. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, then the DMV area. It is predominantly Black, and those experiences are a lot different than in this particular region. Not that you don't have those communities, but the conversations are different and vast and enriched in other ways. And then the spaces that you occupy within the arts are hyper white. And so the way those conversations get marginalized is really, really tough to keep your wits about you and keep the fun and the spirit up in telling your story, because that is allowed in the arts. It doesn't have to be, trauma, inducing every single day. So that is what I make sure that if I'm taking up space in this art world, that's the light that I hold in that space. And because I'm using these ubiquitous objects, those objects are inherent in everybody's household. They don't have anything to do with race or culture or anything, because they're American consumer products. They're at your Family Dollar, or they're at the Piggly Wiggly, or wherever you grew up, you saw the same thing I saw. And so there was just a way for me, because I'm country and I like to talk, obviously, and have conversation with folks and see where you're from. Where are you from? What you grow up about? Oh, you had that too? I had that too. I was born at the height of the 80s, 1980, February. I'm an 80s baby. My homies, 70s babies, So it was, are you an only kid, or do you have siblings? So how did you share your toys? Did you have the new, or you just had to wait till Christmas? All of those things. But at the height of the 80s, you had Reaganomics. You had all of that consumerism that just came flooding in. And so when I think about, like, my mother in particular, who's a single mom and going through very serious stuff on the other end, she's trying to make sure that we are occupied and we aren't trying to, take on too much, too much all at once. So those objects are really interesting to me. And when I think about a way to kind of keep myself together, I like that form of escapism still. I'm a big kid. I'm telling my husband he had a bunch of toys when we met. I thought it was cool. And so that kind of evolved into me just wanting to make giant toys. So I like to keep it fun. And I don't know how to talk about art seriously, if you could tell. But if any other questions, I'll just leave it there. Any questions about the glass? Oh, shoot. Great. I'm not going to hold you. Oh, yes. Miss Pam. Miss Pam has become an alter ego. Miss Pam, if anybody watched All About the Benjamins, I'm going to drop a movie when she was a bail bondsman, and every time she would do something for Ice Cube, they wouldn't thank her. So she would always say, "Thank you, Pam." And so Miss Pam just became just out of luck. The Martyr Sauce Pop Art Museum, I was like, Miss Pam. So yeah, either folks call me Miss Pam or Martyr Sauce, but I mean, or Martyr Sauce. I don't have an identity anymore. I'm just kind of this weird thing now. Yeah, I've done it to myself. Did you have a question? Yes. Right. Yeah. 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 Thank you, boo. How long did it take you to make the lunchbox and the thermos? 3 months? 4 months? Yeah. And it's pandemic time. So I don't know how long, I was cranking things out. I know we all were doing something, and we look back and we were like, wait, how long did that take? Oh, I could whip one of those. I was like, no, I had nothing but time during that time. But it was about 3 or 4 months because I switched gears. I was doing something else, and then it got too heavy and decided to. My husband actually held up the lunchbox because I have the Miss Pam thing, to get back to that, does talk about the lunchbox. And in Martyr Sauce, I had this wall of all of these, I call them artifacts just to sound fancy, but it was a collection of things from like the 1930s all the way up to like the late 90s. It was all the way like, little pomade tins to like Angela Davis pins from like the 60s to, like the Julia lunchbox and thermos to the Dee Dee, the Barbie's rocker, like just different various things in this little wall of artifacts, and that was called Miss Pam. And then when I decided to take over the commercial space above that underground gallery, I didn't want to put Martyr Sauce on the street, so then it was like, well, we'll just call it Martyr Sauce Pop Art Museum, and then just bring in all of those from the small to the large in that space. My website is martyrsauce.com, and my Instagram is @martyrsauce. I am much better at visuals than talking. Yeah, so with all of the objects and the installation, like, yeah, with the like the Gum Baby, Alice in Wonderland vibe, that was including us and putting us in the space, especially when it comes to, and I say us, I mean Black women. Black women are the most influential. I mean, as far as having global influence, Black women, full stop. And we are excluded from all of, just even in just general advertisement and consumer products that you find. Like, take for instance, when I grew up, my mother made it a point to tell me I could not purchase a doll unless if it came in black. If it came in black, then I could get it. And I had to wait till the end of the commercial to see if the doll was going to be black or white, or if it's just, if they included that in the commercial. So the thing for me is to, in terms of fantasy and escapism and just that whole surreal approach to using these everyday products that I could fudge the branding, but I think it's important to keep the brand name in them. And in those advertisements, the only time we saw advertisements that reflected ourselves were, I'm telling my whole age, I hope I have some people that are rocking with me on time here, but Saturday mornings was a big deal. So we had to be out of the shower with our hair freshly washed before Soul Train came on. So, and this is Saturday morning. So when Soul Train came on, that was the only time we ever saw commercials that were specifically for Black people, and it was great. Right after Soul Train, Casey Kasem with the Countdown came on right after. So it was, you just got all the feels. If we were still sitting in between my mom's legs while she was braiding our hair and Casey Kasem was off the air, it took too long. We had wasted half the day, and so the point that I'm making is we saw a direct change between the only time we were included in pop culture and included in commercialism and all of these products were during a very niche time in the, I mean, just once a week, just on that Saturday and in that block of time. And then you just see how you just, eventually just, it's not, you're not considered, as much as you are using these things and as much as they are in your life, to see yourself become, kind of diminished in that space. Me using myself in the work, earlier on, I started as an oil painter, and I was using other subjects. But the more and more I was got into Frida Kahlo and her use of herself, just to tell stories, and it's just a lot quicker and an easier way for me to tell, to communicate more about whatever it is that I'm trying to say, to insert myself in the shot, and then also to insert myself with the products that, you would think, but we weren't. So, I feel like I'm rambling, y'all. Y'all are sweet. But I can stop talking for real. Like, yes, so sorry. Well, I love color. The pink became a thing out of a way to stop. Being in Pioneer Square for so long, you try to come up with clever ways for people not to destroy your property or whatever the hell. But I started painting the railing and stuff pink, like, kind of, you wouldn't punch a guy with glasses, like, you wouldn't do anything crazy, it's pink, So that became just a go-to color of mine if I just wanted to just lighten something. And even with like when Barter Sauce first opened, it was just a small little stairway. The neighborhood, because it's a historic neighborhood, it does a lot of period-specific theme things. So there was a period store where you dressed up all antebellum-like and you walked around the square. And I'm like, okay, so dress me. What am I gonna wear? And at the time, antlers and the whole hipster thing was trending real tough. So I thought, well, I'm just going to paint a portrait of Old Hickory and paint him in a pink slave collar and with a pink ornate frame. And then that was Martyr Sauce. And then I had the branding on the side. And then artists in this small stairway, they were like, yeah, we're rocking with you. We'll, I'll put my work up. And so it was really refreshing that people got it immediately, the ingredients, because it's Martyr Sauce, playing with ingredients. A lot of people had fun with the ingredients and saw themselves in the ingredients. That was vibrant and colorful. And it's just a way to kind of add levity to everything, and it's just a counter. I grew up with a lot of color, and I don't know if it's a country thing or not. Like, we will head to toe monochromatic, with my boo thing. Same color, red. Today is red, tomorrow might be green, head to toe. Seattle doesn't, not so much, but that's, I like to draw those elements in. It's just a feel-good thing. The pink rocket ship, sometimes if I can't think of anything, it'll go pink. But yeah, that's pretty much. I just like colors. Any other questions? Yay. Oh, yeah. Say that again. So the process with glass, because a lot of these products and things that I'm using the ball barrettes in particular, they're so tough and durable. Like, you can't destroy those things unless you probably put it in one of those, like, pressed, I don't know if you've seen those online, where you get to see, I don't know how you break those. They're marbles, essentially. But to turn something that is so durable and dense into something very fragile, you know, and turning something that is indestructible into something very fragile is something that I wanted to play with. In terms of the conversation, and, you know, I talk about being black. I wouldn't talk about being black so much if I were seeing more, but just little girls in general, like how we have to be tough and have to have that tough exterior, and even the want to sometimes just be vulnerable and just be acknowledged of. I think everybody, girls, it doesn't matter what gender you are. I think we all have vulnerability and a fragility to us. It's just in how you come up in the world, what you had to endure, and having people see through that. Something about this particular piece here with the windshield, I wanted it to be as transparent and translucent and have that iridescent vibe as much as possible. A lot of, you know, the ball barrettes have come out, you know, particularly opaque. So all of that, thinking about vulnerability, transparency, but that iridescent kind of magical, like you can't put your finger on it. It's like, ooh, you know, something that just takes your breath away, trying to think about a way to kind of recreate something like that. And it's just like, I feel like I'm in an auto hobby shop, like, oh yeah, you're making a windshield. It's not very glamorous, but, you know, trying to make every bit of it just kind of really like, wow, that throwaway thought is really intentional. I did not want to kill anybody in here, so the thing that I was really drawn to is this thing called fume, and Gabe could talk about it. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I don't know until somebody says, like, slaps my hand and says, no, Tariqa, we're not doing that. But the fume that I saw gave, like, if you know when you blow bubbles and it catches that light, it would have done that, but it's a whole thing. So having some of them clear, and then taking the clear and is a reduction, correct? Yeah, and just reducing that as much as to however much, just to kind of give it just a faint gold, like iridescent vibe has been nice. With just a touch of pink here and there. Some of it comes out a little more warm, and this has been the best thing I think I've done in my career so far, because I really feel like a kid. Like, however, you know, you take clay in kindergarten and you put it in the kiln, like however it's gonna come out, that's the piece, you know, and however unintentional or intentional it becomes, that's it. It's really nice to be in a space finally where it doesn't have to be measured specifically. So underneath all of this, I will get an acrylic round that's about 39 in diameter to fit on the front part of that rocket ship. And I was told to use a clear silicone epoxy adhesive till that they'll just sit, you know, on top. And some of these are still whole, but they'll have a blue Sharpie outline where we're gonna cut them Wednesday, cut a few more of them down. And then some will just stay whole that are really, sorry if I got loud, that are really clear and little kind of like egg shaped, that'll just kind of sit and fill in the gaps here. But yeah, this has been really fun. It's, and then there'll be light and stuff that'll play, and it's still a work in progress. All of this is gonna get taken to Sam May 31st is when we're gonna load in, and I'll just take all of April to assemble everything before May. So, and there are a lot of fun little bits in the space, and I'll tell you separately. It's something about spoiling the surprise. Everybody, I just never want to talk about it until it's all the way up, but it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm trying to get Sam to let me put some glass on the floor They don't want me to do that. But whatever we don't use, I'll have, probably in some contained areas. And the elastic piece that was worked on today, that is the insert for the beads here, will probably be on a vitrine or plinth and just kind of displayed all pretty like. I was thinking to do something crazy and have them hanging, but just that they were done today has just made me so full, because just the simplest things, like in fabrication, is like, when I would teach, I used to teach at Sam, and it's just getting kids just to draw basic shapes. Like, can you draw a circle, or can you draw a square? If you can do these shapes, then you can draw a face, or you can draw a nose. So just trying to tackle a circle, at this big old age of 45, it's like, okay, so you do this. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. And the most simple things that add to that piece, not just being two ball, spherical, oh, what is that, like a lampshade? It's like, no, they're ball barrettes. And the only thing that's gonna tell you that it's a ball barrette is the elastic tie, which is the most unglamorous thing, So I've been learning my lesson with that. Like the lunchbox, it has to curve. Otherwise, it's not a lunchbox, it's just a box. Or the handle to the thermos. Otherwise, it's just a cylinder, it's not a thermos, I have taken up way too much of your time. I was only going to do 10 minutes. So, are there any more? Yeah, we're done. Or did you have another question? Okay, good. No? Oh, one more? Yes. Kristen is a rock star. Yeah, so they were big and bulbous like this. Like some of them were massive. Like this one, for instance. And Kristen came in yesterday. She does all of the co-working and reminded me of what I was doing, because when they were all full, looking like, full bubble clusters, I was like, they're so pretty. She's like, yeah, but that's not, we're making a windshield. We're making a windshield, Tariqa. We have to cut these shallow. And they turned out so great, because it just looks like the top of, a bubble. Some of them didn't make it, which is to be expected, which I'm still learning the hard way. Yeah. Yeah, she is a wet saw. I could say wet saw. Gabe, did you want to answer? Yeah. Yeah. Everybody here has been so great. I'm going to say it to the camera. Oh, my God. This is the best experience I've ever had in my life. I am in hog heaven. I think I'm in a dream. I don't think this is real. Everybody here has been spectacular. I mean, I'm just so honored to work with so many stellar artists. And yeah, I didn't make any sense in this talk, but yeah. That's it, y'all. Keep looking down here.